Japanese language is not that difficult if you put your mind and heart to it. It's quite similar to the Hindi sort of a transcript as well.
As a fall of Japan, the samurais. Me and my friends, I went to Japan, so of course I could not get a katana, proper katana. I got
Yeah,
a
you can
miniature
get
katana.
a small katana.
But
yes.
samurais, that's a big
So,
drawing point even
yes,
today.
Sure, students will look at Japan because anime, manga, they're so Doraemon.
comics, of
Yeah,
course.
I mean, our children grow up looking at those sort of cartoons and all. So, two countries on a government level are working very closely.
Right.
As you said, the bullet train project between Mumbai to Ahmedabad is being funded by Japan.
Right.
That part is very important, where Japanese companies come to India and generate the employment.
Right.
Again, India as a soft power, yoga is something which we can offer to Japan.
Sushi has done its fair bit already for Japan's. Look at a Bollywood movie like Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara.
That
Japan-
movie, do you remember? Ritik Roshan was having a Japanese
Yeah,
and he
absolutely.
bowed down and say konnichiwa, so it had that Japanese element as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, good day to everybody tuning into What's Up Life World. My name is Dev Tyagi and it gives me immense pleasure to be discussing with you the life of an affable person, a wonderful person, somebody who's doing something extremely different from the normal routine 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 existence. Thus far on my show, I've spoken to you about a cricketer, I've spoken to you about an animal conservationist, but today it gives me immense pleasure to direct your attention towards the arduous life of a person who's given no fewer than 2.5 decades towards the Indo-Japanese relationships. It is my great pleasure that I'm welcoming Mr. Praveen Dogra to our podcast today, a recipient of the prestigious Monbusho scholarship that was extended to him by none other than the venerable Ministry of Culture and Education Government of Japan, a gentleman who happens to be an alumni of the Sundai College of Hospitality. And he also has a diploma in the Japanese language. There is so much to speak about him in terms of his introduction that I'm wondering what more can I say, that I'm so impressed and I'm so delighted. Praveen ji, welcome to our show. It's a pleasure to have you here at What's Up Live.
Thank you so much, Dave. It's a pleasure to be here, and I really look forward to our conversation today on India-Japan. Two countries which have historically been connected very closely with each other. And we'll try to see how we can bring these two countries with, a historical culture background together and do so much more between the two countries. Thank you.
Absolutely. In our subsequent chats up to this point, I was most impressed by the venerable background of your doting father. You told me that he was extended the Order of the Rising Sun by the Emperor of Japan back in 2020. And now, learning about your background and the amount of arduous efforts that you've given towards cultivating Indo-Japanese ties for 25 years, it's super impressive. Can you just elaborate? ये जो एक प्यार है, लगन है towards Japan. When did it start? How did it all begin? And what are you doing in the current scheme of things?
Right, Dave. Thanks so much. So yes, my connection with Japan started at a very young age. As you said, my father used to work with the Embassy of Japan, which is based out of Chanakyapuri in New Delhi. He was the senior advisor to the ambassador of Japan and spent 38 long years trying to get both the countries together in terms of culture, politics, and defense. And rightly said, in 2020, during the autumn decoration of the government and the Majesty, he was accorded the Order of the Rising Sun for his contributions in getting the two countries together. So yes, needless to say, at a very young age, Japan was all over the house. We used to go to the parties at the embassy. I used to try out the food. So very young age, around 5, 6, I got to taste how Japanese food sort of tastes like, sushi and tempura and all those dishes. And obviously, seeing my dad do so much for the country at a very early age, I had some sort of a passion or sort of a, what you can say, chahat thi ke ek country is country mein jaye and, try and get to know more about the culture of that country.
Right. About my first impressions about your storied career when it comes to your association with Japan, the thing that strikes me the most is that, of the many things, by the way, is that you learnt the Japanese language. So my first question is, just how hard or difficult is it actually? Because what we see are these symbols which are simply beyond us.
No, thanks to the government of Japan, I got the scholarship, and I spent a year learning the language. It obviously helped because I was there in Japan. So it obviously helped. But Japanese language is not that difficult if you put your mind and heart to it. It's quite similar to the Hindi sort of a transcript as well.
Right.
So there are a lot of similarities. Like in Japanese language, when you say "Mera naam Praveen hai," it's the same pattern in the Japanese language as well. Watashi no namae wa Praveen desu. So it is very easy for Indians to learn the language. And of course, as I said, you have to put your heart and mind to it. I spent a year learning the language. I'm still, learning because in Japan you're never an expert. For all your life, you always keep sort of learning new things every day. So I'm still learning the language after 25 years. But yes, it's definitely important piece of the puzzle because yes, there is a sort of a language barrier, but it's not that difficult as well. Being in India to learn the language, all we need to do is start at the grassroots levels. So I have proposed that to start the Japanese language at, let's say, the school level, and a lot of schools have already introduced. But I think there is a far long way to go in terms of if you see other languages like Spanish and French. You have a lot of teachers and a lot of sort of schools already have that. Japanese is not that sort of famous as compared to these languages, but I guess we need to sort of spread the word because Japan has to be looked as a destination for students to go as well.
Right.
And I say that because it's one of the safest countries in the world.
Right.
And people there, are technologically advanced. It is a mix of modern and traditional. So I don't have anything against countries where students do go, but Japan needs to be looked as a destination now from an Indian point of view, where students should think of going after completing their, let's say, 12th or university studies.
It's very interesting you say that because, correct me if I'm wrong, even today, where it comes to students from India specifically wanting to venture out for further or advanced studies, then I think the top of the mind destinations that still come to the fore are United States, some places in Europe, even Australia, but Japan, correct me if I'm wrong, is not always the number one considered choice. Why do you think that is? And if that is the case, how do you think हम इसको change कर सकते हैं?
Again, traditionally, yes, Japan has not been the number one destination for Indians to sort of go to after completing, let's say, their studies or even for work as well. I think language plays a bit of a part there, and food maybe. But I would say a lot of non-vegetarians and a lot of Indians who can't speak English still go to Canada. So it's the same thing. So I think work needs to be done as to how Japan and India sort of see each other. A lot of people-to-people exchange is important. I mean, if I ask a common man on the road, tell me something about Japan, he'll probably have no idea. So I guess the knowledge about each other's country is still less compared to knowledge about other countries as well. So it's important, what Japan has to offer. And we have to tell that to students at a very young age. Again, as I'm saying, once they're in their 8th or 7th standard, if they already know about Japan, so imagine their mindset when they come to 12th, they'll automatically have Japan as a country as an option to go to.
Right.
But after 12th, suddenly you tell them, okay, Japan is a country, they'll use the traditional routes of US and Canada. So it is important to target them when they're young. That is what I guess is missing right now. So if that is sort of taken care of, I'm sure students will look at Japan because, anime, manga, they're so Doraemon. Our children grow up looking at those sort of cartoons and all. So they already have that small knowledge about what Japan is, but little bit deeper if we go into and target them young is what I feel is the missing sort of point right now.
Fantastic point there. I'm just sharing a very grassroots level insight with you. So when we talk of any particular country, what do we actually explore? What do we actually talk about? So we talk about its military strength, we talk about its GDP size, we talk about its economic might, we talk about also soft power, a concept propounded by Joseph Nye, a Harvard professor, Harvard academician. So when we talk about United States, we talk about, there's Hollywood, there is the immense military industrial complex. When you talk about Israel, we talk about their massive efforts in cybersecurity. When we talk about Germany, we talk about its automotive genius and, the engineering might of the Germans, so to speak. We talk of lifestyle and fashion, we think of France. But two countries, India and Japan, quite culturally similar. With a mix of modern and traditional values where the aspect of, staying with your parents and respecting the elder generation, so to speak, is still very much a part of our lives. And these two countries, interestingly, have also had a tremendous contribution where it comes to the infrastructure sector, don't you think? So we already have a lot going with Japan, which is on a common ground.
Absolutely, absolutely. They've see our two countries on a government level are working very closely.
Right.
As you said, the bullet train project between Mumbai to Ahmedabad is being funded by Japan.
Right.
The Delhi
That's
Metro.
the biggest infrastructure project in
The Delhi
transportation.
Metro has been funded by Japan, an agency called JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency. The DND, which we use every day, is being again funded
all
by
thanks to the Japanese,
it was
yeah.
all so government to government levels are, we are working very closely in terms of military, investment and all. Yes, we were connected first through Buddhism.
Right.
India and Japan came, the first sort of recorded interaction between India and Japan was when a Buddhist monk had gone to Japan. His name was Bodhisena. Now he is being turned into a doll like this. This is called the Daruma doll. It comes from him as well.
Okay.
So you buy this doll, you paint one eye and one eye remains empty, and you think of some goal which you want to achieve, and then you paint the second eye when you achieve that goal. So it's a lucky talisman. So this was the first connect India and Japan ever had. So as we said, we are already connected to that Buddhist route.
Right.
And yes, the soft power of Japan and some concepts of Japanese people like Kaizen is something which, we as Indians can inculcate and use in our everyday life.
That would be lovely to know.
Yes, so talking about Japanese concept Kaizen. So Kaizen is basically continuous improvement. Kaizen tells you to make those small steps every day to come to a big sort of objective. So rather than thinking about the big objective straight away, every day take those small steps towards improvement, and eventually you lead to your goal. So, and it's not such a complicated exercise. It can be done at your workplace. It can be done at your home. Some of the common things when I say about Kaizen is when we enter a room, we have 5-6 switches, right next to the door. So why don't we label those switches which are labeled to the, connected to the light and the fans, rather than switching 5 times and seeing which is connected to the light, rather than label them. So that's a Kaizen. That's a small step towards, let's say, saving energy, if that's your objective. So Kaizen is about those small steps taken to lead to a big goal.
Right.
And again, as I said, Kaizen can be done in everyday life. It is not has to be done at your work. It can be done at your home, everywhere, in your relationships. If you have a small goal, take those small steps every day. So Kaizen is something, I feel we should employ in our everyday lives. And it's a concept, Japanese people live by. And yes, so that is something, which we can definitely learn from Japan. The next concept about Japan is the art of forest bathing. It is called Shinrin Yoku, and which I truly follow every day.
Really?
And it's a simple art of going out there in the nature and without a goal. It is an aimless, but you use your 5 senses once you're out there in nature.
Right.
So it is going, you'll see people, taking walk in the parks, having their microphones in the ear and, talking on the phone.
Yeah.
That doesn't help.
That is still a mechanical,
That
a very
is still,
robotic
yes,
existence.
you have taken a walk in the park, but it hasn't healed you. It hasn't done any benefit to you.
Right.
So the art of forest bathing came in the 1980s, where there was a lot of stress, where there's a lot of work pressure for the Japanese people. And then Japanese scientists and Japanese doctors prescribed to people, saying, please go out in the open and spend an hour in 2 hours, not just a 20-minute, sort of a walk in the park. Spend time out there in the open and see how it affects you. And scientific results have proven that once you're out there in the open for a long period of time, it actually heals you. It improves your sleep quality.
Right.
It is an antidepressant. And you would be very surprised to know that trees give out a natural oil called phytoncides, which improves your NK, which is the natural killer cells.
Oh, wow.
And which actually improves your immune system, and it helps you cure your, diseases and all.
Right.
So it is not just a walk in the park. It is a scientifically proven method to heal yourself. But again, it is a proactive thing. If you have some sort of a disease and you go out there in the park and think it's going to cure you, that doesn't happen. Right. So nature is very important to the Japanese people, and I encourage everyone who listens to the show that go out there, spend time in the open.
Right. So, in a lighter sense, it could be said that forest bathing should be a walk in the park for you.
Definitely, definitely. It has to be. It has to be. And that's
Right.
something which you should inculcate in your everyday life. The
Right.
second thing, I would say, the third part rather, is the concept of empathy, the omoiyari.
Omoiyari.
Yes.
Okay.
If you've been to Japan like last year, so did you notice what people do when they climb an escalator? They are always standing on one side of the
Yeah,
escalator.
yeah. So that there is a provision for the others and so that they do not
It's a
come in the
very
way of the
small
others.
gesture.
Yeah.
It's a very small gesture. So they stand on one side of the escalator so that a person who's in hurry is able to go and catch the train.
Right. And just to expand on the concept of empathy, so it was a very small but nonetheless very meaningful and a very heartening incident. So I was with my family, we were trying to locate the way to reach the top of, the Tokyo Tower.
Right.
But we were sort of lost in the way as to how to approach that particular place. So I happened to ask a lady, and she was actually walking in the opposite direction with some carry bags in her hand. She put it aside, came on my side of the path and took basically the opposite side of the direction that she was walking and went out of her way to explain me where to go. So that's just the Japanese
That's
for you.
empathy, and that's the Japanese hospitality.
Right.
So, they go out of their way to sort of help a stranger in their land to, sort of show it to them.
Right.
So again, these small things, you must have traveled in Japanese trains.
Yeah, I did.
Their phones are switched off. People are not talking. So basically,
There's no loudness.
There is no loudness. So you're always thinking how the next person would feel. So not causing inconvenience to your fellow travelers is a sign of empathy.
Right.
So that is something also which is very ingrained in Japanese culture and something which we can also, sort of inculcate or practice it in our everyday lives.
Now, there are multiple facets about Japan. We've spoken just now about the culture of empathy, the peaceful coexistence with your fellow human being. We've spoken about its industrial might. We've spoken about the Japanese innovation. There's so much to speak on there. But for you personally, having been a part of both the countries and intricately so, what about Japan appeals the most to you?
See, again, as I said, India and Japan are culturally very connected,
Right.
historically connected countries, and are natural allies.
Right.
In defense, in investment, there are a lot of Japanese companies right now investing in India, so they're creating employment. The biggest Japanese company right now in India is the Suzuki Group. They have around 4 or 5 factories in India, generate massive employment. So again, that part is very important where, Japanese companies come to India and generate the employment.
Right.
Again, India as a soft power, yoga is something which we can offer to Japan.
Right.
Yoga and Ayurveda is something, which we can definitely go and, introduce in Japan. It's already known, but again, as I said, it's all at a level where it needs to increase.
Right.
Japanese companies also right now are at around 1400, so that also needs to increase.
Wow.
We need to go more to Japan and introduce our soft power like yoga and Ayurveda to Japan.
So somewhere the cultural ministries on either side you feel can still do a lot more in terms of introducing
Exactly. First,
themselves
it
to one
has to
another.
be the people-to-people exchange. That has to
Right.
increase. People right now has to see Japan as a destination for study, work, and business.
Right.
It's a lovely country to do business with. Everything is in black and white. And, once a Japanese person becomes your customer, he's your customer for life. They're very loyal. So it's a good place to do business with. And, it's again, they are looking to do business outside Japan. So we as a country need to improve our infrastructure, need to cut out that red tape wherever there is, and invite Japanese companies to come to India. So, it has to be both ways, and a lot needs to be done. But as I said, we need to start early.
Right.
We need to educate people at both sides about each other's countries so that they look at, each other's country as an option
Right.
once they have that sort of point to go
Right.
to.
So we were talking about the concept of the Japanese soft power, and it just brings to my mind that sushi has done its fair bit already for Japan's, for the familiarity of Japan in India, don't you think?
Yes, definitely. Food also plays a very important part. One of the notions we sort of Indians have that Japanese food is already non-veg food. So
Right.
I've got some
That's
food
so
today.
not
Let's
true.
have it and let's prove that notion wrong.
Okay.
Let's have a veg sushi today together and prove that Japanese food is not all about non-veg. They have some wonderful
Absolutely.
veg dishes as well.
Right.
And the notion on the Japanese side is that Indian food is very spicy,
Yeah.
which also I would like to say that it's not the case. It
Right.
depends on person to person. So yes, food again plays a very important part in connecting the two, cultures
Nations.
and countries together. A lot of Japanese restaurants have sprung up in Gurgaon
Right.
at the Golf Course Road. A lot
Right.
of Indian restaurants are there in Japan as well.
Right.
So yes, I think both people of both the countries enjoy each other's food, and again those small I wouldn't say misunderstandings, but lack of knowledge about
Right.
each other's food and culture that needs to be sort of taken care of, so that there is more acceptability
Right.
towards
But I've
each
seen
other.
personally on an individual level that in the past half a decade there has been more travel awareness in our part of the world towards Japan. For instance, people who are really the hardcore tourists who want to experience the best that Japan has to offer. They're extremely keen on discovering the cherry blossoms. And there are people who are also trying to make their way not just towards Tokyo, which is such a fascinating and a brilliant city, but even towards north of Japan, Kyoto, and there are so many resplendent and beautiful, picturesque cities out there.
No, I mean Japan is definitely one of the most beautiful countries you can go to. Cherry blossom, it stays there for only 2 weeks, and yes, the crowds are obviously a lot
Right.
there during that period. And it's about to come,
Yeah.
end of March, early
Yeah.
April. That's the season. So yes, tourism is there, but I don't know the data, but I see. There's hardly, I don't think even 1% of Indian tourists right now
Right.
go to Japan. So
Right.
people who are well traveled would
Right.
definitely like to go to Japan. But what would I like to see is Japan being their number one destination of choice compared to Middle East, let's
Right.
say.
Right.
We'll still say anyone who has to go outside India would prefer Middle East rather than
Right.
Japan. So we still have a lot of ground to cover. But as I said, Japan is one of the safest countries in the world.
Yeah.
Their hospitality is a class apart. I haven't seen that sort of hospitality anywhere else in the world. I have done my hotel management in Japan. I worked with one of the best five-star hotels in Japan, the Hotel Niotani in Osaka. So I've seen the amount of hospitality, and I, can bet once an Indian traveler goes to Japan, he'll feel like the king.
Right. What has Japan not done? Even when it comes to the marvel called the advertising industry, there is Dentsu. It's the king of all marketing communication agencies. When it comes to Formula One, ask any hardcore racing wheel nut, and he will tell you that Suzuka, the home of the Japanese Grand Prix, where Ayrton Senna and the greats of his caliber were able to take some regaling victories. So Japan has done a lot, but I still feel that we were talking about promoting tourism and the lack of understanding which still exists on our part of the world towards Japan. I still feel that, for example, if you look at a Bollywood movie like Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara,
Correct.
what it did towards amplifying the visit to Spain was remarkable. I really feel that if a big budget Bollywood movie is intricately
But
shot
in that
Japan,
movie, do you remember Hrithik Roshan was having a Japanese
Yeah,
and he
absolutely.
bowed down and say Konichiwa, so it had that Japanese element as well.
yeah, absolutely. It's just about time that we were able to showcase the best that Japan has to offer through a film, and then let's see. It
No,
would be
definitely. And Dave, this podcast, I
Right.
hope people listen to this podcast and get aware of what
Right.
there is huge potential between India and Japan. As I said, in terms of going there for studies, going there for work, and doing business as well for businessmen, for employees, and for students.
Right.
There are a lot of scholarships which Japan gives.
right.
So some people might say Japan is an expensive country. No, I would say there are a lot of scholarships which right now the government of Japan is giving, which our students should sort of seek after 12th.
Wow.
They should go to the Embassy of Japan website, learn about those scholarships and apply for those scholarships.
Right. Right.
And that's the best way. I went there as a scholarship student.
Right. Right.
So that's how you start.
Right.
A lot of Japanese students should come to India and study our language, the Hindi language, the yoga, the Ayurveda. So again, education starting early, these are the touch points which we need to sort of
Right.
work on.
Yeah, absolutely. Japan is this colossal marvel that we can go on about endlessly. I also want to quickly ask you your impressions about one of the most popular and yet unwavering enigmas of all of Japan, the samurais. Me and my friends, I went to Japan, so of course I could not get a
Yes,
katana,
yes.
proper katana. I got like a
Yeah, you can
miniature
get
katana.
a small katana.
But
Yes, yes.
samurais, that's a big
So,
drawing point even
yes.
today.
So again, as you said, samurais, ninjas, the
Right.
animes and the mangas,
Right.
you get to know about these characters through these sort of, cartoons and movies and all. So yes, they were part of Japan's history.
Yeah.
Obviously, right now,
Yeah.
they are not into existence, but yes, there have been, legend
Yeah.
about samurais and ninjas. And that's something which, someone who has interest in needs to go to Japan and get to that
Yeah.
historical roots,
Yeah.
see what it's all about. Buddhism is something which they can look into. As I said, technologically very advanced. All of the big Japanese companies have bases in India, like the Toyotas, the Hondas, the Suzukis.
Yeah.
So, you should go and check out, what they have to offer in terms of technology as well. Small Indian companies should also look at Japan in terms of collaborations. It's not only about
Right.
the big companies. Japan is mostly made of small and medium scale enterprises which actually run the economy. So small Indian companies who have interest, who are looking for technologically advanced products, should look at Japan in terms of collaboration.
Right.
So
And just the Japanese brilliant talent at the miniaturization of products,
yes, it's attention to details. I
Yeah.
mean, it is a perfectionist attitude if there is any.
Right.
Nothing gets done if it's not done to perfection. And still, an expert working on a product for 20 years will say, I'm a beginner. And that is the Shoshin mindset. You always look at things as a beginner. You never call yourself as an expert. So it's all related. Kaizen, having a beginner's mindset, even if you worked on something for 20 years.
Right. No, absolutely, absolutely. Just countless things to marvel at when it comes to Japan, and what more can we?
Yeah, I mean, see, podcasts like these obviously help spread awareness about the two countries, and our children and people who are looking to for work opportunities in Japan. Japan has a diminishing workforce; they have an
Right.
aging population, so they're looking for people to come to their country from
Right.
outside Japan.
Right.
So if we can start early, let's say from the language part, then after 12th, after your university, it's already a destination for you to go and work there. For business people who are looking to expand their businesses, Japan is a country, and vice versa as well. So I think the opportunities are endless, and podcasts like these, thanks to you, you chose this topic today, and
No, it's
I
a
was
very
delighted
fascinating
to,
subject in itself, and
yeah, I mean,
your
I can go on for hours and hours talking about
your
India, Japan,
storied
but
career, beckons the tale around it.
no, I'm
and
thankful to
hence-
Japan for what I am today. I
Right.
mean, as I said, India's meri jan bhumi hai, but Japan meri karm bhumi hai.
Right.
And concepts like ikigai, which is your purpose to be. How do you find your ikigai? And Japan has helped me find my ikigai. The purpose is to promote India and Japan. That is my ikigai.
Right.
So I urge everyone to find their ikigai as well. That's how they'll at least learn a new Japanese word called ikigai.
Right.
So iki is to live and gai is your worth. So what is worth living for?
What is worth living for? Absolutely.
So this is one Japanese word, I'd like to sort of throw out today and urge everyone to find their
Right.
ikigai
Right.
and travel once to Japan. Because once you travel to Japan, you'll not come back as the same person. It teaches you a lot. It teaches you a lot of humility.
Does.
It teaches you a lot of hospitality, empathy, and yes, lot to learn.
Yeah. There's so much the planet needs to soak in from Japan. I want you to elaborate for our viewers today. You were there and you were adopted by a family. वो क्या था आपका वहाँ पे stay?
Well, yeah, not exactly adopted, but yes, there is a host family culture. So
Right.
I went there as a student. I was a
Right.
19-year-old.
Right.
I went there as
Still not out of your teens yet. then.
Not sure about that. I have a few gray hair now, but yeah. So there's a host family culture, and then you fill out forms talking about your interests and hobbies, and they fill out a form talking. And if you have overlapping interests and all, so they sort of become your host family.
Wow.
And I was very fortunate to have a host family in Japan, in Osaka. The Kawano family, and they were into a business of manufacturing plastic products, for which I worked for 5 years.
Okay.
So again, I promoted that business. It was a small, medium scale business, and I promoted it all over the world, Asia, Pacific,
wow.
and Japan. So I tried to sort of work for them as well for a small period of time. And yes, again, being with them taught me a lot how, and very similar. I mean, Japanese families and Indian families, like respecting your elders,
Right.
following a bit of a hierarchy is there, and, eating together around the table. A lot of similarities between Japanese and Indian family. I mean, they're almost family now. I came to India so many times. So yes, and they are also looking to intermingle with people outside their
Right.
cultures and learn about what Indian culture was.
Do you think that the language is somewhere sort of a barrier? It tends to alienate people where it comes to, for example, absorbing Japan in the same light as a United States or a Canada, or do you feel that once you get into it, it's just myth, nothing
No,
else?
it is. I wouldn't lie. A language is
Right.
a barrier in the mind
Correct.
of people before traveling to Japan or looking at Japan as a destination. But yes, as I said, we need to start somewhere, right?
Right.
I mean, you need to start inculcating. If obviously, a lot of Japanese are now very fluent in English. So I
Right.
wouldn't say it's all Japanese. A lot of signs now in Japan are in English language. So it's not that you can't get your way around. You can
Right.
easily get your way around in Japan without even knowing a single word of Japanese. But if you look at it as a long-term point of view, and again, I would say start early, get it into the schools of India. And it's very similar to the Hindi language. For us Indians, learning Japanese is very easy.
Right.
And get them early, get our students to learn about the language and the culture and the country. I mean, not let them be masters in the language, but at least some sort of inculcation. Because I'm telling you, the next 5 to 10 years, India-Japan relations will grow exponentially.
Right.
And Japan already inviting students and workers and businessmen to invest in their
Right.
country, and vice versa. So we will have to look at Japan, and if we can start right now,
Yeah.
I think it will be much more smoother journey than
Right.
if it's taken all
Right.
of a sudden.
Well, I could be sounding biased here, but I would love the association between these two marvelous countries in the sphere of electric vehicles and green energy. That's something that I'm very keen to explore.
Yes,
And I'm very keen to
definitely.
follow how this particular business tie can foster in the times to come. Um, it's been fantastic and rather insightful speaking with you because, as I said, in a lot of my work as a podcaster, I'm connected to sports people, I'm connected to people who are doing a social movement, who are looking after dog rescue, so on and so forth. I talk to writers and poets all the time, but to have somebody whose work agenda is about bringing the two countries closer than they are, that is something remarkable and something which I don't come across on a daily basis. So it's been rather telling and brilliant.
No, thank you so much, and I should congratulate you on choosing this as a topic for your podcast. That is also important. If that wouldn't have been there, I wouldn't have been here. So thank you so much for choosing
Absolute
India Japan
pleasure.
as a subject, and yeah, look forward to working with you as well in terms of how we can get the two countries together.
Absolutely. You're always welcome at What's Up Life, and we are delighted to have had you today. And we look forward to having more and more meaningful interactions like these. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening in, and do subscribe to our channel, What's Up Life Word. Do spread a word about this podcast. And as Praveen correctly mentioned, India and Japan, never a better time to come close together than now.
Arigato gozaimasu.
Arigato. Thank you.